Welcome back to another episode of the Awfully Irish podcast. Not the usual trio we see. Today, I am joined first of all by a co-host, Declan. Declan, sound for getting on, man. Much
No worries at
appreciated.
all. How are we getting
And
on?
secondly, I am joined by Mr. Larry Hankin. Larry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, for anyone who might not know you, which is the very few people watching this, how about you introduce yourself?
Well, as introduce myself. Well, I'm Larry Hankin, and I live here. That's about it. Anything else is up for grabs. It's the news or the fake news, whatever you want. I'm an actor. Oh no, I'm a stand-up comedian. That's what I am. I'm a stand-up comedian. I do acting every now and again, but.
You say you're a stand-up. How did you get into stand-up?
Well, that's how I started. I graduated Syracuse University as industrial designer, which I didn't want to do. And I thought my obligations upon graduating college was, my obligations to my parents were over. And my best friend in college was Carl Gottlieb, who wrote all the Jaws movies, among others. He didn't write them then. I mean, we were just two guys hanging out. And he said, "Where are you going after, graduating Syracuse? Where are you going?" And I go, I don't know, probably to Detroit to design cars, which I really don't want to do. But I was a good student. I mean, they really wanted me. So they offered me a lot of money. So I was tempted to go, but he said, I said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I'm going to Greenwich Village. I'm going to be a writer. Why don't you come with me and we'll just, be roommates and we can split the rent and you do what you want and I can be a writer." And I thought, that sounds more fun than Detroit.
Working on cars.
I'm designing cars of the future. But I mean, I had no idea about show business. It was Greenwich Village. In other words, I wasn't going into show business because I didn't want to go to Detroit. I was going to Greenwich Village with Carl because that's what it sounded more intriguing, more exciting. I don't know. I was young. I was crazy. So we went there. We were roommates. I think my rent was $75 a month. It was $150 a month for this 5-floor walk-up apartment. That was crazy. The bathtub was in the kitchen. That's how small it was. The bathtub was in the kitchen. If you were taking a bath, they put a tin kind of a lid on it, so it was kind of like a table, but you couldn't sit at it because it was a bathtub. You couldn't get your knees. You couldn't sit at it. You just had to put stuff on it. But when you wanted to take a bath, because there was no shower, that was the bathtub. They're in the kitchen. So you would take everything off the cover, and then you would take the cover off and you would put it against the wall, and you would get in the bathtub. And if Carl happened to bring home a date and I was taking a bath at night, you open the door and there's a guy taking a bath. It was just ridiculous. So we worked kind of that out, I put something outside the door to say I'm taking a bath now or something. So we worked it out. So he got a job writing for the local newspapers, usually little newspapers, and not anything big, reviewing movies. So I was left to my own devices. I had just come up with $75 a month every month, plus food, which I couldn't do. I got a job cleaning the duck boards in a bar from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So that was my job. That was my show. That was my start in show business. That was my first job. And so I had my entire nights and days free to do, well, not entire. I kind of slept from like 8 until, I don't know, noon or 4.
Until
I mean,
bedtime.
it was just really hard. Working at night and trying to, sleep is weird. Because, Carl had a regular job. He would get up and he would go and come back. So I started to hang out because this was in Greenwich Village. We were in Greenwich Village. So I started to hang out at coffee houses. There was nothing to do at night. And I didn't even have any money. I mean, I was stealing food from the bar to feed myself. So I could only work there for like no more than 2 weeks, I figured. Because I was stealing food. I mean, they would see, I was stealing like not, cans or a sandwich. I was stealing rashers of bacon, I mean, flat things that I could put in my back, in the belt in the back. And I would wear a raincoat to work every night. For small cans of, sausages and stuff and bread. It was just crazy. And then I would wait and they would lock me in. I don't know why. I never asked why they would lock me in instead of locking people out, and but they did. So I had to wait for the chef to come in the morning, the 6 o'clock chef. It was like a bar and grill, to come in the morning. And so I would wait by the door in my raincoat stuffed with food. And not too much, I didn't want to show.
Just enough.
Show. So I was cool. So I would wait by the door, and as soon as he opened it, I would just slide out. I didn't want to, hi, Jer, how you doing? Hey, Larry, goodbye. And I just get out of there, just and out. So I did about 2 weeks. I lasted for about 2 weeks, and I thought I got to get out of here. It's getting too close to. There was empty places in the storage place. So I thought I'll try stand-up because I was watching, coffee house comedians and folk singers. That was all there was. There was young guy folk singers, no women comedians at all. This is in the 60s. And folk singers, a lot of girl folk singers and blues players. So I did that, and after about a couple of months, and Carl was feeding me and coming up with half the rent, and I would just do small little jobs during the daytime, part-time things, whatever I could get, a day job, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it was, just to come up with something to give Carl to pay the rent or food. And he was stealing cold shrimp from the movies that he was reviewing. He would take linen napkins. In those days, they had linen napkins, not paper napkins. They would, give you a little wine before you go in to see the movie. He was reviewing it with all the other big time magazines and papers. And it was just, so they would, give you cold shrimp and a little wine, and you go in and review the movie. So he would get a linen napkin, and he would just take a handful of shrimp, and he would put it in a napkin, he would twist it, put it in his suit pocket. He had to wear a suit. In those days, everybody wore suits, weird. And he would take the napkin back, and here's your dinner, Larry. And then about a month and a half after that, he would do that like regularly. He would review movies 3 times a week, and he would come in 3 times a week. He would have these cold shrimp in his napkin. I saved the napkins. There's about 60, at least 60 napkins, all over the place. We were using them for rags, for towels. I had them draped over lamps. It was just all over the place, linen napkins. And finally, he said, after about 2 months, he said, "All right, that's it, Larry. I can't do this anymore." I go, "Why, man? Why? Did they catch you?" "No, man, my suit is smelling of fish. I can't do this anymore. It's my only suit." So I think I couldn't pay for the cleaning. So he quit. So I had to get a job. I had to get a real job. And luckily, just the timing was perfect. His manager came in, Woody Allen's manager. And he said, "Hey, you got a manager?" I go, "No." He said, "How would you like one?" I go, "Yeah, that's why we're all here." Nobody in Greenwich Village in the 60s were there to be famous. I mean, and they were all there. Bob Dylan was there. Peter, Paul, and Mary was there. Jimi Hendrix was there. Phil Oakes was there. I mean, everybody who was famous in the 60s, in the beginning of the 60s, they weren't famous. They were just there. And they were just doing coffee houses, and I was opening for them. And so Woody, too. He was across the street in a nightclub, but it was Greenwich Village, and he was just opening. So Jack Rollins came across the street into the coffee house, and he saw me coming off the stage, and he said, "Hey, you want a manager?" I go, "Yeah." I didn't know, nobody was famous then. I mean, Woody wasn't famous, but but Jack Rollins was handling Nichols and May, so he was famous. So I go, "Wow, man." And then then he had me paired with Woody Allen. I was opening for Woody. As Woody went up, I went up with him. And we were booking me together. And finally he separated us because Woody was not my crowd, actually. I was more Greenwich Village, and he was more uptown. And I was cursing on stage and smoking about and talking about pot. It just, you could see the audience, because I would open and it would be okay, like the Peter Paul Eilers, upstairs at the downstairs and downstairs at the upstairs. And he would be upstairs at the downstairs and I would be downstairs at the upstairs. It was just one nightclub. You just go upstairs or downstairs. It was an open, and then finally he had us paired together. And then I noticed it's two different audiences. And so Jack finally figured that out. So he sent me out on my own, and I was opening for like Miles Davis and the Kingston Trio. That wasn't my audience. So he had me, so I got, that was kind of cool because you learn who your audience is, how to, work an audience that wasn't with you or wasn't for you. It was great. It was great. And then that ended because I finally was doing the Playboy Club circuit. And that was cool for many reasons. But I was then invited on the Playboy television show, to be interviewed by Hugh Hefner. And let me just turn this off. Okay. So I hadn't done drugs. Maybe I'd done a little marijuana, but I wasn't into it at the time. I was a late bloomer. So so when I did the Hugh Hefner, I was touring the clubs, St. Louis and Chicago and blah, blah, blah. And it was going well, fine. And then I was invited on the Hugh Hefner show with the Smothers Brothers. That was the two guests, Larry Hankin and the Smothers Brothers. Now, the Smothers Brothers, I didn't know this, but the Smothers Brothers were a fan of mine. They had been, I never opened for them, but I don't know how they came to see the stars that I was opening for in a nightclub, and maybe the Smothers Brothers had come to see, the opening act, the big act, and so they happened to see me because they knew my act. That was the strange thing on the Hefner show. But I had never gotten high doing a show. I mean, that was. I maybe tried it in the committee, maybe, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I never did that. But on the Hefner show, I invited my friends. I never invited friends to shows because I was afraid I would bomb in front of my friends. So I never invited friends to any of my stand-up openings, even if it was a big, big thing. They could come. I wouldn't say don't come, but I would never invite them. I invited them to the Hugh Hefner Playboy TV show. So we're in the green room and they said, "Hey, we brought drugs." And I go, I thought, I don't do drugs, at least for shows, man. That's like, but they said, "Yeah." I said, "What did you bring?" They said, "Hash." I'd never done hash, so I didn't know what it did. Yeah, So I did the hash. I figured, well, that's different. That's not marijuana. That's I'd probably be cool. So I did a really big hit. A little applause. Hey, Larry, for first hit, that's really good. So I just sat there, and then they go, "Hey, Larry, you're on." Okay, kill it, and then they go sit on the couch, and there's the Smothers Brothers and me, and a Playboy girl. And then Hugh Hefner and another Playboy girl, and then there was a Playboy girl over there, a bunny. And So I just sat there quietly while they interviewed, the Smothers Brothers. And they said, and then Hugh turns to me and he goes, okay, Larry. So, and then what they have, all the interviewers have, they have the key question to key in the comedian. So he, goes into his shtick, so Hugh asked me the leading question, Larry, what about, I hear that you have da da da. What about this? And I go, oh yeah. And I started to just, talk about it. I didn't really go into my routine. I was just kind of talking like this. And then Tommy goes, Larry, tell him about the whatever, the marzipan. Tell him about the marzipan. Oh yeah, well, yeah. So there was, I don't know. And then so Tommy said, the marzipan bit, and then he would do the marzipan bit. So Tommy Smothers was doing my act on the Playboy Club. He's saying, Larry, and he would talk to Hefner. He'd say, well, what Larry is talking about is blah, 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 the marzipan, the monkey and the thing, blah, blah, blah. And Hugh knew exactly what was going on. He said, thank you very much. And so after Tommy was, kind of finished helping me along, right? So tell him about that, Larry. And Hugh just said, thank you, Larry, very much. And then we're going to go to commercial. And they just got me out of there. And that was the end of the touring of the Playboy Club. And that was it. So I learned my lesson, a very expensive lesson. But Larry, don't get high. Hash is not cool. Hash is not funny. It's not funny, Larry. So that was the end of that. And I've never, since then, never have I ever gotten high. It's not me. Not my shtick, man. So I luckily, again, timing, man. It's I went back to New York and I was doing the coffee house things again. I went back to the coffee houses, and the Lovin' Spoonful came in to see my show because they were playing there too. It was a Greenwich Village. It was still the 60s. And they said, hey, man, you're really funny. Why don't you go on tour with us? And I said, fine, let's just get out of here. I need a job. And, and they thought I was the cat's pajamas. I mean, I never understood that. What does a cat's pajama have to do with luck? But anyway, they thought I was the cat's pajamas. So I toured with them, and it was great, which started a whole other long story. But so that kind of, and then I remained at that kind of level. From there, I went into the committee, and then I went down to LA and became an actor and blah, blah, blah. But to this day, I remain, in my mind, in my heart, a stand-up comedian. And because I'm not an actor, I can act. I can be real. I mean, there's no more acting. By the way, any of you actors out there who want to be actors, acting is over. Like pop music, it's over, man.
Finished.
It's it. You got to be either real or get out of here. So I can be real, but I can't act because I can't memorize. I mean, the memorization is just bullshit, man. Well, it's not bullshit. I mean, great actors memorize greatly, I guess is how you'd put it. But I can't do that, like one of the things that, have you ever seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Yeah.
Okay, in the movie, there's this one part where they're in this apartment and they're fighting and shooting at one another. And so they're fighting, they're shooting at one another, and they're talking at the same time. I can't do that. That's acting. To me, that's what actors do. That's acting, boy. When I saw that, I go, wow, I'm a stand-up comedian. That's amazing what they're doing. They're firing guns and remembering their cues, and they're ducking at the right time. They've memorized two things: dancing and talking, and also shooting. I'm dyslexic. That's beyond my ken, man. I can't do that. So so Kevin Hart just blows my mind. I mean, he memorizes all that stuff, and he's funny, and he's a stand-up comedian. what the hell? I mean, so I'm like, a caveman compared to Kevin. So yeah, so that's how I got into show business. Long story longer.
Improvisation, improv is your thing.
Improv is my thing. Thank you very much. There you go. Exactly. I wanted to be an improver for the rest of my life. I didn't really want to go, but the money down there was just amazing. And then I could do what I wanted to do, which I really wanted to just make my own little films. And being on stage in the committee, and I was in Second City, I was in committee. I started the committee. I mean, I was one of the original members of the committee. But that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I loved it up in San Francisco and improvising. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to do any homework. You didn't even have to do research for your monologues. Like what are people talking about? Medical, old age, drugs, sex, rock and roll, politics. You could, study one of those and you go on stage and you talk about it or guitar playing, whatever. But with improv, you don't have to do anything at all. Just show up and the audience gives you topics. And all you have to do is just relate to the other person on stage. That's all, and just say what, I mean, there's training, so you know what to do. But they train you. You don't have to, do research to be a stand-up comedian, which I had to watch a lot of comedians fail on stage before I figured out I could do that better. I was a funny guy in high school, I could be that funny. I could be funnier than the guy up there for 3 minutes on, open mic nights, because I was doing a lot of open mic nights, tons of them. And that's really great because it's the audience is very forgiving. They don't care if you're funny or can sing or can play guitar, because you're only up there for 3 to 5 minutes and then my friend comes up. So I'll put up with you. I won't boo. It's impolite because my friend is next. So they gave you just a pass. So you could experiment. That was the whole point of open mic nights. So you could get better really fast, as opposed to, looking for somebody to open for. So open mic night was the best, and stand and improv. Those were the two. You can't get any better if you want to begin something than be an improviser or open mic nights. But the money I could do, if I went down to LA to do movies and pretend, I didn't act, I pretended, then I could make enough money to make my film. So that's why I was in LA the whole time, right? Forever, from 1970, the end of 70s, so 80s, 90s, 2010 to 2020. I was making movies. That was what I was doing when I wasn't in a movie. I was spending the money on a film.
Just to ask you about one of them. I watched.
So there you go, right there. See that? That's an Academy Award nomination. See, so it paid off. I got an Academy Award for Sally's Diner. It was a film that I made, and I got I won a lot of prizes for my films, but they're mine, and they're on my website, thereallarryhankin.com. I made about 40, 50, I don't know. There's a lot up there. And they're all on Vimeo. Everything I've ever done on my own, produced, directed, wrote, lead, is on Vimeo, Larry Hankin. But the particular ones that I like, about 16 or 10 or 16, are on thereallarryhankin.com. So you can go there. And then these are my paintings. I'm also a painter in my dotage. I'm a painter. So I got those up on thereallarryhankin.com. And they're all, let me just move over. There you go. They're all on t-shirts. I made t-shirts out of all of them. It's about 40 t-shirts. You go up and go get them. Yeah, so that's what I do. Something to do.
What made you want to get into art? I didn't know you did art, did paintings.
I've always been a painter. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, there was two things that I did when I was a little kid. By about 5 to 15, there was, what can a little kid from 5 to 15 do? I drew. I made little films, with little plastic stuff you could buy for 8 millimeters. You had the little toy film things, little film camera. And I set fires. I was a pyromaniac from 5 to 15. So huge fires. I mean, like barns and billboards. I set on fire. And grass, straw, dead grass, lots, lots, empty lots, not a lot, empty lots. I would set fires to. I lived kind of on the edge of the suburbs. So my block, where I lived, my block was the end of the suburbs. So it was on Long Island, near the beach. So right at the end of my block, there was 2 more houses. And then across the street was an empty lot. And then after the 2 houses in the empty lot were just woods. And then on the other side of the woods, about 5 blocks of woods. And then there was more houses. And then the beach was down there. So I was on the end of this. So I could set things on fire that nobody would know about in the woods. But then when the billboards in the barn went off, then people called the fire department, and I was never caught. I was never caught. But here's an interesting story about that. Okay. How I found out that my mother really loved me. This is a true story. At the end of if you go the other way, this was in another place. We moved inland. So about 5 blocks away, there was an empty lot and a billboard. Ooh. So, and I had some matches. Aha. And 2 friends. So putting that all together, we went out to the lot behind the billboard, and we were just going to set the grass on fire. Oh, I swear to God, I also had a little can of lighter fluid. What more can I say? And so I spread a little kerosene on the grass, lit it on fire behind the billboard, so we were sheltered, nobody could see us from the road. And we just set the grass on fire. It was straw. And we had a little fire going, and it got to be about 8 foot round. And then my friend said, okay, let's put it out. And as he said, okay, let's put it out, the wind started to come. And the wind blew at us across this huge field of just grass. So if the wind blew the other way, it would blow into the bay. So the fire would go and then finally burn out at the water's edge. But no, it blew this way. So it blew the fire right into the billboard. And so it started, and we tried to put it out. We really did. I'm telling you guys, we really tried to put it out. We tried, we really tried. And it went up. The billboard just went up, so we left. Now, that's the only thing you can do, man. If you're in too deep, leave. And so I left, and I ran home, and I went into my bedroom and hid there in my bedroom. And I just stayed there. Larry, is anything the matter? My mom said, no, everything's fine. And there was a knock at the door, and I heard a knock at the door. So my mom answered it. My dad was at work. So I got out of my bedroom, and I walked into the parlor, and I hid behind the couch just to listen. And I saw a fireman at the door. And I heard the fire engines, because it was only 5 blocks away. I heard the fire engine and everything putting out and he was dressed, he smelled of smoke. I mean, you could just see it. And it was dirty and filthy, and he had just put out a fire, you could tell. And he had the yellow raincoat on and the big hat. He was totally in his firefighting mufti. And he said, hi, my mom said, yeah, what do you want? And she said, do you have a son? Yes. And I go, oh, no.
Gosh.
Said, where was your son? Do you know where your son was for the last 2 hours? And she said, yes, he's been with me. My mom loves me. Yes. Yes. She lied to a fireman. That's as good as lying to a cop. for her son. Yes. Mom loves me. Yeah, that's what I thought. She really does love me. Cool. So that's all I can say is, man, moms, I don't care if you kill somebody. If your mom says you're innocent, she's okay. That's it. Moms can protect their sons.
When the door closed, she didn't hit you a clatter, no? Clip around the ear?
No, she just looked at me and walked away.
Fair enough.
She didn't want to know, man. She just looked at me, hiding behind the couch, and walked away.
Yeah.
You might
What
have
age
had
were
a sign on that said, "I did it."
Yeah, it was me.
So that kind of ended my fire age, my fire lighting era. That was the end of that. I learned fast, The cop comes to your door, a fireman comes to your door, and your mom has to lie to protect you. Whatever she's lying about, just stop doing it. It's over now. Just go on to the next thing. So I was painting and making little films and doing homework and stuff, And also I would fight with the teachers. I had a lot of standing in the corner and sitting under desks during public school. I didn't agree with anything that anybody was teaching me. Somebody said this, I didn't make this up, but I read this about 5 days ago. I think it was a rock and roller had said this, but right on. He said, I like to learn. I don't like to be taught. Amen.
That's a good one.
That's really cool. Yeah. And that was me from 5 on. Also dyslexia helps that. And you get into a lot of fights and you find yourself in unintended consequences a lot with that kind of attitude. But which I did. I mean, I've had a pretty crazy life.
Definitely.
I mean, guns and knives, it's threatening. Saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Or, it's not cool.
I've heard a story recently about you, guns and knives to the wrong people, and it was to some of the producers on Friends. You were chatting to our friends over at the.
There you go. See how easy it is to pick out where I went wrong along the way. That was like only 10 years ago.
God.
I'm a slow learner, I guess. I can pick up things kind of fast, but if I have to learn it, it takes me a while. I have a short fuse, or I had a short fuse. I'm pretty mellow now.
Yes.
He said. But then, I would just argue at anything. I mean, if it didn't compute in my mind, I mean, I just didn't pick. It had to not compute. And when they killed me, when they killed Mr. Heckles on Friends, didn't compute. You know what I'm saying? Why did they do that? That makes no sense. So I went into work that week. Here's how my agent broke it. I got good news and bad news for you, Larry. Okay, what's the good news? Good news is you got another Friends, your 5th. Nice going. Whoa, more money. But also, I don't know if you know it or not, but you know how it happens if you have a 6th show?
You come back as a recurring character, isn't it?
Become a recurring character. You know what the bump in money is? And so I was already, so he says, you got the 5th. So I was thinking, I can get a driveway. I can put a down payment on a house. And he said, so what's the bad news? He said, they kill you in that. What? Okay, so that's when And I said, so, I just report for work tomorrow, and then, because I didn't have to audition. I had done four shows. So I just went into work the next day, but that was in there, man. And so, and now what I didn't know was that this was the first show of the new season. My fifth show was the first show of the new season. And for the first show of the new season, all sitcoms do this. They have a big party. Hey, it's the opening of a new season. So I thought I was just going into work, just rehearsal. And you wait around till your scene is up. But no, I went to the set and there was nobody there. So I asked, what happened? I'm supposed to rehearse. Where's they're upstairs. It's a party. It's the first day of the new season. So I went upstairs and there they had a big party going, champagne and lox and bagels and sausages and little, what do you call it? The cocktail tables, where you stand up and you just little tables and you stand up and put your drink on it. So there was about 20 or 30 of these little cocktail tables. And there was about 100 people in the room having a party because of new season for the Friends. And so I just marched in and all I wanted to find was the producers. I mean, because of the situation that has arisen here. And so I saw them and weirdly, they were all standing. There was 3 producers and they were all around the same little cocktail table and there was nobody else around. So I could just go up to them and nail them, all of them at the same time. So I just made a beeline for them, and I just walked up and they were very happy to see me, oh, Larry, how you doing? How was your, your summer vacation like that? And I go, what the hell did you people do? Shouted at them that loud and everybody just, and the room went silent and they go, what? And I noticed the room went silent and immediately the woman, I can't remember their names. I think I shut it out. But the woman said very, very quickly, it just blew my mind. She just leaned forward. I just yelled at them, what the hell did you do? And she just leaned forward very calmly and said, Larry, could we talk about this a little later? And it just shocked me into, oh my God. I mean, it just, what did I just do? And the room was silent and looking at us. And I said, okay, cool. I just went to her level. Oh, okay. And I just walked away, but damage had been done. So for the rest of the show, I mean, I walked over to the craft services table to calm down and just, let the room get noisy again. Just, and I'm just standing there. And as I'm walking to the craft services table, everybody walked away from the craft services table. So I knew I had done something untoward. And I walked over there, my mind was scrambled and I just like pour a cup of coffee, have some lox and bagels. What should I do here? And this kid come up to me, about 15. And I guess he was one of the sons of somebody. He just came up to me. I looked down at him, he goes, dude, that was so cool, man. I go, thank you very much. Thank you. That doesn't help, but thank you. Okay, somebody understood my duress. Thank you, kid. So we rehearsed the rest of the week and nobody would come near me. I was like a pariah. I was like I had smallpox or something, or COVID, Delta.
COVID, yeah.
Like I had COVID. Nobody would come near me for the entire 4 days of rehearsal.
Oh.
When I finally went over to the writer of the show, I said, is there the writer here who wrote this? And they said, yeah, him. So he's a young guy. So I went over to him. I said, hey, why did you do this? Why did you kill me? Why did you have Mr. Heckles have a heart attack? Why did you do that? That was very nice because I knew, those days are over. So I just said nicely, and he said, I didn't. I was my first show. They told me to do that. Why did they tell you to do that? because they needed a place for Chandler to move to. Chandler was moving out, and they didn't realize that if Chandler moves out, how can he be in the show every week? I mean, they didn't want to get rid of Chandler. He's like a big star. You can't just get rid of somebody like that. So the only place, he couldn't move across the street. Would he have to visit every week? No. But if he had the apartment across the hall, that, and that's where Mr. Heckles lives. So it was a creative decision, a creative problem-solving decision. So they told me to write you out so Chandler could come in. So I said, okay, thank you, He said, and to cheer me up, he said, but they told me that since I was a beginner, I could write they said, okay, what is it? I was a learner, I was in there to learn how to write. I was an up and coming young writer. So finally they said, okay, you are good enough to write your own episode now. So he said to them, to the producers, well, what do I write? How does that work? He said, what you do is, for you, because you're a beginner, pick your favorite character who visited them, or write an episode about your favorite character. So he said to me, my favorite character was Mr. Heckles. So I wrote an episode about Mr. Heckles. When they read it, they said, oh my God, we got a place for Chandler to go. Because I made you next door neighbor. That's why he showed up at their door. And that gave them a place to put Chandler, gave them the idea to put Chandler. So he came up unbeknownst with the whole idea about, So yeah, that was a callback of my old days of, just letting go with whatever was in my head. No boundaries is what they call it. Larry has no boundaries. He just says what's in his head. Now, as a stand-up comedian, that's great. It's very funny on stage.
Helps.
I mean, Don Rickles made a living just saying what came into his head just by looking at somebody. It's also improv, in a weird way. Not really, but yeah, you just say it. But no, not in Hollywood, and not that. I've learned that. Here's just for anybody who wants to go to Hollywood for any reason whatsoever. If you go to Hollywood, Hollywood is like your parents, period. Just remember that when you get there, with all your big ideas and all your, new ways of doing things. And it's your parents, man. And if you can get over your parents or around your parents or through your parents, if, in other words, if you have learned how to deal with your parents and you're cool about that, then you can probably make it in Hollywood. But I'm telling you, it's like your parents. And I couldn't get around my parents. I mean, I had to get away from my parents. So I had a very hard time. Also, which is another reason why I don't say I'm an actor. It's because actors can deal with Hollywood. They do. I mean, I've worked with a lot of great actors, man. And I've watched them do their thing. And it's amazing. It really is. Just to be on the set and see like Clint Eastwood, smooth as silk. I mean, no, he's always calm, always there, always present. And he's like a producer, and he directed one scene on Escape from Alcatraz. I watched the whole thing. I was there for 3 months. That's an actor, I've watched, I've been directed by John Huston. I've watched actors under his direction. It's amazing. It's a wonder to watch, like anything great, that's being on the set. So I'm writing a book about being on the set, of watching this go down, all these great people and their idiosyncrasies, but their greatness too. I mean, you just go, I would never go in my dressing room. In Escape from Alcatraz, I was on for 3 months on that island. We'd go home at night, sleep, and then you have to get on the boat and go back. And you couldn't leave until at night. There was no back and forth. The boats left at 7 o'clock in the morning and you were on it, and if you weren't on the boats, at 10 boats going out to Alcatraz for all the, extras and the equipment and the director and everything, this flotilla of boats would leave. They were all commandeered, paid for, tourist boats. They just bought out the entire fleet of tourist boats. And that was, Warner Brothers, I guess. Warner Brothers. You get on, and you couldn't leave until the boats went back at 8 o'clock at night. So if you were going to shoot at 6 o'clock at night, your one scene, you had to get up at 5 a.m. to get down to the dock by 7. Or there was only one boat at noon. One boat, and that was for the CEOs from LA who drove up or flew up. And they, would get there whenever they wanted, have lunch, and then get on the boat and go out to see what's going on. And they could wait, and then the boat would take them back. But it was a CEO's boat. So if like you got hurt or sick, or they had to take you back to shore, that was the boat. But other than if you're just an ordinary actor or somebody, you just had to wait until 8 o'clock at night. So I never went into my dressing room, even on the days that I shot in the morning. I could go home. I would stay until 8 at night. Just there's nothing for me to do. I mean, I didn't live in San Francisco anymore. I just hang around and spend money. And I was saving up to make films with the money I was making off of that. So I'll be I wouldn't cash the checks. I just put them in my sock drawer. At the end of the 3 months, I had a stack of uncashed checks, man. So when that movie was finished, I paid off all my debts. I bought a transportation vehicle, and I made Sally's Diner, which got an Academy Award nomination. That's from not cashing those checks and saving up, and got an Academy Award nomination. So yeah, but I would watch and never go in my dressing room. I would watch Don Siegel direct. Great director. I mean, he's classic, black and white movies. He directed the big ones, Roderick Crawford, Lee Marvin. Yeah, and then Clint Eastwood, just hanging around with Clint. Here's a piece of trivia that nobody knows about Clint Eastwood. You guys are the first ones to hear. Well, I've told a couple of friends. And I did say it on national TV, but you guys are the only people I'm telling this. He's a master, he's a savant of Lear's limericks. Nobody knows that. You know Lear's limericks, right?
Yeah.
Or do you, or don't you?
King Lear.
What about
Declan.
I forgot your name.
Declan.
Say that again.
Declan.
Declan. Detson. Is that close enough?
I'll go with DJ. This is just much easier. DJ.
Lear's limericks are a bunch of old Lear's limericks. They're poems. They're funny, satirical, and generally dirty, like poopy dirty. I mean, not filthy dirty, but funny, dirty limericks. There once was a man from St. Ives who blah blah blah. 7 wives, 7 wives. 7 wives, 7 cats. Blah blah blah, and that's what I was St. Ives. There, I gave you a Lear's limerick. But Clint Eastwood, I was there for 3 months. He was never stumped. He would never go into his dressing room either, except to change clothes or whatever. But we didn't change clothes. We only had the same. It was the same clothes, the prison outfit. No changing clothes to get something or get a drink or I don't know whatever. But he would always be on the set, and he would eat with the extras. He would always eat lunch with the prisoners, extras. So I would always eat with Clint Eastwood. So I would always sit at the same table. I would go. So, there's just so many questions that he can answer because that's what they're going to do. And he knew that, but he was used to it, and he thought he should hang with the extras. why do that? So, but they ran out of conversation. So he said, well, I know Lear's Limericks. Can anybody, give me a topic and I'll make a Lear's Limericks out of it, or remember one that I know. And there's thousands of them, real Lear's Limericks. So that's what would happen. There were little conversations. Maybe a new guy would ask him a question about show business or something like that, and then they would start to try to stump him. Well, here's a lyric. Do one about a car, and he would just like that. There was a guy from blah blah who had a car, and blah 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 wouldn't go very far, but in a bar, and boom, and something in the bar was very dirty. So, and that was the Lear's Limerick. And I was there for 3 months. He was never stumped. Nobody's ever. I've read interviews with him, and he's never mentioned it. Nobody's ever asked him about it. But that was like really weird. And by the way, I've worked with a lot of stars, and they all have some weirdness to them. All of them. If they're really big stars, and it's not like weird, like, oh my God. It's not like that. It's something very funny or very unique, or like Lear's Limericks. I mean, Clint Eastwood, Lear's Limericks. Bryan Cranston had some, I can't remember, but some trick or something that he. But I try to figure out why that was. They all had something weirdness about it. Good. I mean, the only answer I could come up with was that they're so talented that when they're not using their talent, they use that energy to just come up with something, to stop their boredom. They'll invent, like, well, I'm bored. Let me see if I can memorize a couple of Lear's Limericks, or they would learn to play the guitar, and play funny songs. A lot of actors do that. They really can't play, but they can play these funny songs. If there's a guitar, they'll pick up, hey, listen to this. And you go, hey, man, that's kind of weird. Great. It's a little, I don't know. So that's what I write about. And also my dyslexia on the set and assuming things were said that weren't said and saying the wrong things, and then seeing this famous actor react in some way. So that's what the book is about.
Right.
When's the book coming out?
Well, I'm still writing it. It's very hard to write a book. Let me tell you, man. I mean, what I did was I recorded, like these things that I'm talking to you now about. I got one of these podcasters, because I do these podcasts about 2 a week. So ever since El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, that started me off on podcasts, because they wanted me as an actor in the movie to do podcasts to advertise the movie. So I was sent out by Warner Brothers to advertise the movie on podcasts. So for about 6 months, about 2 months before the movie and about 3-4 months after the movie, I was advertising I was doing podcasts for Warner Brothers to advertise El Camino. But I got to know podcasters. So I thought, well, why don't I do this for me? Why am I doing this for El Camino? And then the movie came out and blah, blah, blah. So I got an agent, or an agent called me, said, hey, you've been doing these podcasts. You could probably do podcasts about the movies that you've been in, not only El Camino. So you want me to put your name out there? I go, yeah. So the name Steve Joyner. I don't know. Do you guys know Steve Joyner? No. Okay. But he is like an agent for podcasters. Not for me, not for podcasters. So he said, okay, somebody needs a podcaster, an interview person. I'll give him your name. So ever since that, I've been doing, so those podcasts, I would watch them. I don't watch them anymore. I mean, some of them are for an hour, half hour. And I kind of got my MO about doing them. But I thought, I called one of the podcasts that I'd done with. I said, hey, what are you doing on every Saturday for the next couple of weeks? They said, why? I said, well, I want to do my stories about show business. I want to record them because I want to do a book, but I want to record them first just to see how I do, what subjects come up. So I tell you what, every Saturday for an hour, let's go on Zoom and you interview me for an hour and we'll record them. But you ask me specifically about, and go on IMDb and see what I've done and just ask me questions about each one. And every time you mention a name, it'll bring up, remind me of a story and I'll tell them. And we'll see if I got a book there. So we did that for 8 weeks, an hour, so 8 hours. And then I watched them and they were funny. They were just funny stories about me and show business. And then somebody said, and then he said, the podcaster said, I showed these to my wife and she said, this would make a great book. So I said, yeah, it would. So I'm typing them up now. So now I'm watching them and typing them up. You know that there's a thing that you can get if you have a podcast or anything that you record live on Zoom, say, that you like. There's an app now where you can feed the Zoom broadcast or the tape, if you have a tape, into the app, into your laptop, into the app, and the app will type out the video words. Yeah. It'll type it out. So that's what I get. I get a typed out version of what I was talking about. And then and it's in Microsoft, which is what I have, Microsoft typing, yeah. Office, not Office, whatever the whole thing. And so I can put it into my Microsoft and I just edit it. I just kind of, rewrite or go over it because what you talk about is not readable. Talking is not readable. It's because you're watching the person and blah, blah, blah. But reading, you have to be specific. So I got about 150 pages. So when will it come out? When I get another 150 pages or another 100, I need 100. So it'll be about 2 months till it's finished. And then you got to find a publisher, blah, blah, blah. So next year,
Next year. So you shouldn't have a problem finding a publisher.
Well, really, I shouldn't. And it's really, it's about famous people in show business which can sell. So if you see a book come out with my name on it, I'll do we can talk about the book.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, do another podcast.
Part 2.
So just, give me a call or something like that. But that's, so that's what it is. So now I just paint and write my book. And that's about it. And then I do acting for friends, they call me, but I don't want to act anymore because they want me to do big roles. I just had somebody call me from Chicago to do actually it was a co-star role. It was just too much learning. I mean, it would take me like a month to learn all the lines, just and in the month I could finish my book. So it was a trade-off of, is it worth, I'll make this much money, but in a month, if I get the book, I'll make that much money. It's a trade-off,
And the book is yours. The movie is shared. Producers,
it's shared. It will come out, and I don't know, And then I had a beard at the time. Yeah. This is last year, so I would have to shave the beard. And I didn't want to at the time. And in other words, there comes a time, I guess, when you just, it's moving on time, and there's no way you can be talked out of it. And when do we have to go? Oh, shut the fuck up. Just comes at you from all sides. Wow.
Was that the television?
That was the television. That was the television. That was the phone.
Poor television.
It's a knock at the door.
Always something.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tornado outside.
So quick to shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Christ. Okay. So just before we finish up, DJ, Any more questions, Willie man?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Billy Madison and what it was like to work with Adam Sandler. You know,
Okay.
especially because you're improv, and I thought that could really work. What was it like on set with Adam Sandler?
Okay, before I answer the question, I'll answer that question.
Yeah.
But I just noticed something. I didn't realize it. I just noticed that you guys have accents. You haven't talked that much.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. This is the Irish show, no or yes?
Yes.
You guys are in Ireland.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, what city?
Offaly and
Offaly.
Tipperary.
Tipperary and
Awfully nice.
Awfully
town you
nice,
come
yeah.
from. I didn't realize it this whole time that, I mean, I knew yesterday that I had an Irish show today, but now I was so excited about being late that I
You're caught up.
and then all of a sudden I'm telling these guys have accents. What state are they from? What time zone are they from? Oh, Ireland. Oh, I would have done a whole different show had I known it was I would have done an Irish accent. All right. Well, no. Okay.
Actually, I'll actually say not too bad. I've heard
That was very good. Yeah.
very worse.
Not too bad. Well, I'm a pretender. I can do it. But if you ask me to do it for more than 10 minutes, I'm out.
mini episode of you as an Irishman for 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, they kept on asking me to do Irish accents, and I got, that's it. I'm out of here now.
Yeah.
I just write my book, and it's over. Okay. So Billy Madison. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun working with Adam Sandler. I would work with Adam Sandler now because he's grown up and he's a really good actor. He really is a good actor. He's as good as I am, but he can memorize lines and I can't. So he can do longer things. But he's just as good as I am. But back then, he was young and full of himself. So he was a prankster. He would keep on doing pranks, and I don't like pranks.
Yeah.
I don't have a sense of humor. I'll just tell you that right now. So pranks on me just don't fly, and or don't fly. He was pranking me. He was calling me, like he would have these young girls. They weren't his girlfriends, but he was followed around by young, 15, 16-year-old girls wherever we were shooting. I don't know. I don't even remember. Somewhere in Hollywood. I don't know. Malibu, I guess. And they would follow him around, or he would, I don't know, there was a bar in the neighborhood. I don't remember. At night, I would go to this bar, and there he was at the bar, and he was surrounded by young girls and a lot of guys. He had a lot of fans. And so he would have these young girls call me at 4 a.m. When I had like a 6 o'clock call. Oh, hi, Larry, can I come up and visit you? Tell Adam to go fuck himself, okay? I mean, you can hear him laughing in the background.
Yeah.
And then, that laugh that I did in the movie, hey, Carl, do that laugh for my girlfriend, and then that scene with me and Adam and the girlfriend in the back, and this is Carl, this is my friend Carl, do that laugh for me. That was shot in the afternoon. So at lunchtime, he called me over to his table. We had his place with all round tables, and all the crew ate at round tables at his lunchroom. And he sat, with the producers and everybody else, and his friends, his writer friends. And he was like, hey, Larry, come here. Oh, now what does he want? I just was up to here with him. I didn't want to be around him. He was rude. So I go over, I go, yeah, what do you want? And he goes, hey, I hear that you do this funny laugh. I don't know about what? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, well, I hear that you do this funny laugh, you're like a mouse, and then you do this funny mouse kind of face, and you do this funny laugh. Oh, that? Oh, man, that was like, I did that in high school. I was in a lunchroom. I mean, what did you even find out about that? I haven't done that since I was in high school. And he goes, Oh, I have my contacts, but do it for me. I said, no, I don't want to do that. It's I did that in high school. It was at the lunchroom, get laughs. He said, no, come on, do that. And he kept on insisting. And I kept on saying, no, man, I don't want to do it. No. But he just wouldn't stop, man. I mean, see, that's the other thing. One of the reasons I know that he's a star is because he is tenacious. It's unbelievable. And all stars are that way. They want to be stars. And they'll have nothing else. I mean, they're totally, their focus is amazing.
Yeah, zoned in on.
Yeah, man. And he was like, so, I mean, I understand he was being tenacious and he was being rude out loud, and I was fighting. But I also knew this is what stars are. I mean, it's ingrained in him. I can't stop him and he can't stop it.
Yeah.
So I just said, okay, so I'll do it. And then can I go back and finish my lunch? And he goes, yeah. And he was being very nice, but tenacious, but very nice. Yeah, you can go back. Just do it. And all the people at his table are silent, like the Friends thing. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen. This guy won't do it. This guy won't stop asking him. And he just is going on and on and on. And finally I said, okay. So I did the laugh, but I didn't do the face. I mean, it was just too much. It was just embarrassing. I'm a grown man, and I was doing it in high school. So that's what he was asking me to do, something childish in front of other people. He wouldn't say, like, hey, Larry, come here. So I just did the laugh. And I said, okay, ha. Can I go back to my lunch now? And he goes, yeah, goodbye. So that was it. And then in the middle of that scene, that was the first take. He didn't say anything. Hi, Larry. Hi. Okay, this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, rehearse it. So we rehearsed it once for camera. We just rehearsed it as written. He says, okay, ready? Okay, directors, you ready? Yeah. And action, blah, 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 blah. And the camera is running. And I'm young. I did that when I was in my 30s. I hadn't done many movies, or in Hollywood. So this is a big deal. And he was the star, even though I didn't like him punking me and all that stuff. Yeah, somehow you get to know this is his movie. We're doing this first scene, blah, 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 blah. And in the middle of the scene, he goes, hey, Larry, do that laugh for my girlfriend. And I was so shocked, and I was in, improv. It was still in my head, Second City committee. Oh, he's improving now. Okay, I got to do this. The camera is running. Director is watching. I don't want to be fired. That's what was going through my mind. I was just a young pretender, actor. So I did the laugh. And as soon as I did the laugh, I hated myself. I just hated myself. God, but I finished the scene and I thought, well, I'm not going to do it again. And then Adam said, okay, let's move on. And they broke down the set. Shit, he got me. He finally got me. Fuck you. No, I couldn't hang up on him, nothing. And then when I went to see the movie, there it was. Got me.
Caught rotten by.
So that's that story. The one time that Adam got me. But I held a grudge to him, at him, until he came out and did. I think it was one of the movies where he worked for another director, and it was a serious role. And I thought, wow, man, you good
Uncut Gems. Yeah, that was a great film.
Uncut Gems. Yeah, that was later. I was already into him as an actor. Way back. I don't know where we had anger management problems, and he did anger management. Even that was even pretty good. But again, I don't know where he stopped, bugging his acting mates and just started and grew up. But he did, finally. I mean, but he was even rude to me after that. He called me one day after that and said, he called my agent and said, hey, my brother, he has a brother. My brother is directing a movie, and I recommended he use Larry. I mean, he did respect my being funny or my acting, whatever. He respected me as an actor because he recommended me to his brother. He said, my brother's making a movie. I recommended Larry Hankin. Is Larry doing anything? Can he be in my brother's movie? So my agent called and said, can you audition for Adam Sandler's brother? Adam Sandler recommended you and called me. Can you audition tomorrow? And I said, wow, I'm in New York doing a movie, which I was. I was in New York doing a movie. I said, but I'm released tonight or tomorrow morning. I mean, I'll be released tonight. I can catch a plane tomorrow morning and I can show up. The plane will get in at tomorrow night. I can show up the day after tomorrow. So he said, okay. And then I said to my agent, I can't get there tomorrow, but I can get there the day after tomorrow to audition. I'd love to do it. So my agent called him back and he called me back and said, forget it. If you can't be there tomorrow, forget it.
Wow.
And I thought, what the fuck is that all about? I mean, Hollywood is based on, I've been in Hollywood 40 years. It's based on working around other actors who are acting and other things. You do that. That's, or there would be no movies.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't get. It's just, so that was the kind of the, I don't know, the point at the end. You know, where I just gave up on that. I mean, that was like just stupidly rude. He wasn't even pranking me. He was just like, "Fuck you! If you can't come tomorrow, then there's no job."
Yeah.
I thought, wow, man, I understand the immediacy. I understand that. But to audition, you want me to audition, so you're not shooting. It's an audition. You know, even if I audition, you wouldn't be able to make a decision until the next day. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, okay. So there you go.
That's Hollywood.
Adam,
That's
finished.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, wow, what a story. So, yeah, Larry, first of all, I want to thank you. You've been
Well,
tremendous
Thomas,
guest.
thank you very much. And whatever your initials are, whatever
DJ.
your name is, this stranger here.
Thank you
DJ.
so much. DJ usually isn't the host.
Jay.
Jared is usually my host here, but DJ, I want to thank you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
no
you
worries.
taking time out of your day. Everyone,
No
make
worries.
sure check out Only Cans on Instagram.
Thanks for the shout out.
And Larry, where can people find you? Your website?
Okay, so Facebook, you know, just mention your program that, hey, you saw me on your program and that you're Irish. That will get you through. And also thereallarryhankin.com. That's my website where all these things are. And what else? Oh, and you can Google me, and I'm on stuff I've done on Facebook. What's the other one? YouTube,
Yeah.
and Vimeo.
Vimeo.
There you go.
And Larry,
YouTube,
can I just make a suggestion to you as like a tagline for your website or even a T-shirt? Pyromaniac, painter, pretender.
Larry Hankin.
Larry Hankin.
Well, okay. Wait a minute. I'm gonna write that down. That's pretty good. Do it again. I'm serious. I'm gonna do that.
Pyromaniac, painter, pretender.
Okay. Pyromaniac, painter, pretender.
I love that.
Okay.
I like that. Brilliant.
I don't even have to put on Larry Hankin. Just anybody could be those three.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll put it out when it's ready. I'll put it up and I'll tell you. You know, because I got
Perfect.
your email. Okay.
Pleasure.
Cool.
Thanks for the conversation, Larry. A pleasure
Okay.
meeting you.
Thank you,
Love to
man.
meet you, Larry. So, and to anyone watching, sound out.
Irish.
You're real ones. Love yous all. Keep safe. Stay safe. Hydrate. Stay away
Oh,
from
right.
yourselves.
Wear masks. Stay safe.
Wear masks.
Wear masks.
Bye.
Solid advice and goodbye.